hello friends, and welcome to Cross My Heart Ministry. It's Monday and it's time for Martha Monday. This week I'm going to share a recipe for lemon-glazed ricotta cookies. Now I'm hosting some ladies in my neighborhood for a little get-together, and I decided that I really needed to up my game. Instead of my good old standby oatmeal, peanut butter, chocolate chip that are great for the family and great for the kids and yummy, I wanted to do something special and something just for the girls that seemed a little bit of a step above. So I looked around and searched some different recipes, looked at different ingredients, and sort of put together my own recipe. You'll notice that I'm doing a voiceover because once again, I had a big fail. I did the recording and it didn't record. So I'm doing a voiceover. It won't exactly match up, but you'll get the idea. I think you're really gonna love this recipe, and I hope that you'll give it a try at your house. So here we go. I will put the download below. You can click on the PDF and print your own copy of what I'm calling lemon-glazed ricotta cookies. And I hope that maybe you'll give this a try for your next lady event when you decide to invite friends or ladies over. I think it would be great for a baby shower or a wedding shower, someplace where there are maybe girls involved. I love lemon, and I think when you go the extra mile to glaze a cookie, it takes a lot of extra time, but it just feels really special. You can put these up on a little pedestal cake pan, make some coffee, and it just feels a little special and a little more elegant. They were pretty easy to make, and I'll tell you, they were absolutely yummy. Also had a few left. They were already glazed. I went ahead and even stuck them in the freezer, and they did just fine. Let me go ahead and launch the recipe and give you the ingredients first. We'll run down through those. I'm going to use my KitchenAid stand mixer to mix these up. But let's look at the ingredients. First of all, it calls for a stick of butter softened. I've left this out on the counter to soften. I'm going to put it in my mixer bowl here and get it started in my KitchenAid mixer. My hubby gave this to me a few years ago. I absolutely love it. It kind of does the work so I can keep going. So much of a time saver over a hand mixer. Then I'm going to drop in 2 cups of sugar. We're going to measure this out. Of course, I always use something, a flat edge, to kind of level it and make sure I get exactly a cup. Drop that in. There's 1 cup. Need the 2nd cup. I'm going to go ahead and level it off. This is just plain old white granulated sugar. Drop it in. I'm going to let the KitchenAid mixer do the work of creaming those two together, getting them mixed really well. And going to turn it up a little bit now to sort of get those all mixed together really well. Next up are 2 eggs. Now, when I break eggs, always advise doing them in a separate bowl, not breaking it right into the pan, because you know, you always end up getting just a little bit of an eggshell in there, and you got to get it out. So, and of course I did that. I'm going to run and grab a little teaspoon to get that off and make sure that there's no eggshell in there. So if there's any in there, I'll have to fish it out. So I'm going to go ahead and put the first egg in there, turn up the mixer just a little bit, get it mixed together really, really well. You're going to add 1 egg at a time and just beat it until it's kind of fluffy. You really want to get that mixed in there together nicely. So there's 1 egg and now 2 eggs. Fortunately, no broken eggshells this time. So going to get that all in there. We're going to mix together all these wet ingredients first. Next up is the vanilla. Now, I never use imitation vanilla. It's nowhere in my kitchen. You know how I love to save money, but I will never substitute on the vanilla. And I always measure it right over the mixture because, hey, if a little extra vanilla flavor gets in there, I'm not going to worry about that. I love the power punch of flavor that you get from just a teaspoon of vanilla. So we're going to let that go, get that nice and mixed in together. I always like to stop and rake down the sides just to make sure all the ingredients get mixed in very, very well. So rake that off. We're going to go ahead and let it continue to mix. And then we're going to add the ingredient that gives this recipe its name, the lemon. The recipe calls for 1 lemon in the cookie, and then we're going to need another lemon for the glaze. So I've already got this lemon out here and ready. I washed it Add 2 lemons, of course. I washed these ahead of time. I went ahead and used my little zester, and I took the zest off of 1 lemon, and it's in there. So the recipe calls for adding the zest of 1 lemon, and so I'm gonna drop that in the recipe, and it's all good to go. I didn't demonstrate that on the video, but it's there. It also calls for the juice of 1 lemon. So since I've already got the zest off and I've kind of scalped these things, I've got my little handy dandy utensil. I'm gonna cut these up, put it in the little handy dandy lemon squeezer here. This works for lemon or limes. Just give that a good squeeze, and you'll see after I get everything adjusted, all that juice just come right out of there. Pretty easy. It's just the easiest way ever. I never buy that lemon juice in a jar or a can. It's just terrible. If it calls for lemon juice, go ahead and buy a lemon and always use the fresh stuff. It just adds so much more flavor to your ingredients. Don't bother with that stuff in the jar. So I've got half of it done, cutting the other half. This is gonna come together pretty quickly. And of course, these leftover lemon rinds will freshen up your disposal. So be sure and drop those down the sink and grind those up to freshen up your disposal and your kitchen sink when you're finished. We don't waste anything here when we're using a lemon. Now, side note, you can't do that with the lime. For some reason, the lime will just booger things up and you'll have a big mess in your disposal and have to fish it out later. But a lemon does great down to the disposal to freshen things up. So we got all the juice out of here, and gonna go ahead and measure that out. It actually calls for 3 tablespoons of lemon juice, but I have found that 3 tablespoons is just about exactly the juice of 1 lemon. So after measuring it out, fishing out the seeds, going and doing the measuring, I think what I found is that 1 lemon has about 3 tablespoons. So I'm gonna go and do the measuring here to confirm that, making a little bit of a mess, dropping in the 2nd tablespoon. And then as I measure that, I think I concluded, yes, exactly 3 tablespoons with 1 lemon. So when I do this recipe in the future, I'll just tell myself juice of 1 lemon. Now I've got that lemon zest all ready to go. I'm gonna go ahead and use my spatula, get it all out of that bowl. It's amazing what nice flavor this adds, just a little teeny bit of texture to the cookie. This is a very, very moist cookie, compliments of the ricotta cheese. So getting all this mixed in here together, all the liquid ingredients, and I'm gonna go ahead, clear my counter out here a little bit, and when I made the recipe, I think the first time, believe it or not, I actually forgot the ricotta cheese. So had a little bit of a fail there, but we're just gonna go with it. I'm gonna tell you right now, you need to go ahead and mix in the ricotta cheese now. I forgot to do that the first time I made it, but I added it in later and it worked out fine. But you're gonna want to mix in 15 ounces of ricotta cheese before you add the dry ingredients. I just completely got distracted and forgot to do it when I was recording the video. So right now I'm sifting together all the dry ingredients. It calls for 2.5 cups of flour. I'm leveling that off using my dry measuring cup. So 2.5 cups of flour. This is just all-purpose flour. Then I'm gonna grab 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Now be sure it's baking powder, not baking soda, baking powder. We got 1 teaspoon of that, and then also 1 teaspoon of salt. So I have my salt in a little container. It just got too difficult to get all that the limited amount that I needed out of that little box. So I just keep it in a little separate container. So I got my teaspoon of salt there, grabbing a spoon, gonna mix that together, kind of sift and mix it together. And so got all that combined, and it's gonna be added to the wet ingredients. So here we go. I'm gonna preheat the oven. Again, that was another thing I forgot to do. You really need to preheat first so that when you have the cookies ready to drop in there, they're ready to go. But my oven preheats quickly. I'm preheating to 375. I actually have a convection oven, and so it will automatically adjust 25 degrees lower. So let me get the sugar out of the way. Let me stop the mixer. All the wet ingredients are mixed together nicely, and I'm gonna go ahead and get that off here so I can get those get the dry ingredients mixed in, raking some stuff off so I don't have a big mess when I pull the mixer off and it starts to drip. Okay, so let's drop in our dry ingredients. We've already mixed those together, the flour, the baking powder, and the salt. Mix all that in. We're gonna get it off the sides just a little, put the batter bowl back on, and let that KitchenAid mixer do the mixing for us. I'm gonna use the shield because the flour might just sort of create a little dust storm in my face, and I wanted to guard against that. So that's all doing its work, getting all mixed together. And here in a minute, you're gonna see the look on my face when I realize, oh snap, I forgot the ricotta cheese. I still haven't realized it yet on the video, but you're gonna see the look of alarm. I have my cookie scoop ready. I'm gonna put that on my baking stone, be ready to go. Letting the dry ingredients get mixed together. And these are going to bake once they go in for about 15 minutes. It says just to let till the edges are lightly golden. This is going to be a light color cookie. It's not going to get golden brown or anything like that. So I'm putting this on parchment paper because they're a little bit sticky. So I love my Pampered Chef baking stones, and they usually do such a nice texture to my cookies, but I've got the parchment paper to put on here. And when this is mixed together, I'm looking over my ingredients now. You can see that, and I think I'm going to realize that I forgot the ricotta cheese. Oh, hold on. Laura is saying I forgot. I'm gonna stop this, run and grab the ricotta cheese, and hope it's going to mix in fine. I did make that mistake, but I corrected it. I dropped the ricotta cheese in after I'd added the dry ingredients, and it did not matter. So here I am back with the ricotta. Laura's big mistake, she forgot. It's 15 ounces of ricotta cheese. I'm gonna go ahead and put that in afterwards, and I promise you it worked out just fine. I wasn't about to throw out this batter and start over, so I'm just gonna mix it in and call it good and make it work. The dough, when we finish, is really kind of sticky. It's very thick. And it's very moist. The ricotta cheese, because it's so cold, is gonna make the dough kind of cold, but that just drops in a big chunk, a big hunk. Rake that all out, get that container cleared out, drop it back down, turn the KitchenAid mixer back on. This is what happens when you record live, folks. Sometimes you make a mistake, but you can always fix it. So that's gonna mix together. Gonna mix it in. It's going a little slow because the dough is thick now that I've added all the dry ingredients, but it's going to be just fine. Gonna get that all mixed together and get those ready to go in the oven to bake. It's still mixing, and I'm looking forward to having the ladies in my neighborhood over. I think they're gonna like these. In fact, by the time this video posts, they would have already come over, and they all really did seem to enjoy it. I froze those leftovers and actually served them to my leadership team when I started planning Bible study for the launch of the fall semester. And so I served these for the leadership team, and everyone loved them. So I gave them a little teaser and said, I'll share the recipe, but you have to watch the video on Martha Monday if you want the recipe. So hopefully this is going to be a popular one with everyone else. Gonna get everything raked off because I don't want to wash any cookie down the drain. So I'm gonna go ahead and use the scooper now. It's a little bit thick. I'm gonna drop these onto the parchment paper. It is kind of thick, and it was kind of hard to get it to release. So gonna drop those off in little balls one at a time, adding those to the parchment paper. And I have another baking stone at the ready. So I love having two baking stones because I can fill up one cookie and have while they're in the oven, one batch of cookies baking. I can go ahead and be getting the other one ready. I don't waste any time letting cookies cool before I can get them off and then put the other one in the oven. So I usually just have a little assembly line going. Gonna go ahead and drop these on here. I'm literally putting a square peg on a round hole here, trying to make this fit with the square parchment paper on the round baking stone. But getting all these added, you can see that the lemon juice and the lemon zest does give a sort of yellow hue to the cookie batter, and that's great because they are lemon glazed ricotta, and that lemon is all natural. It's no artificial coloring from some lemon juice that's been packaged in a jar. It's all natural there. So we're gonna go ahead and get these ready to pop in the oven, and I'll be right back in a minute to let you see the finished product. These are yummy, and I can't wait for you to try them at your house. Okay, well, I'm back. The cookies are out of the oven. I slid the parchment paper off the baking stone and put them on a tea towel to let them cool completely, and they are absolutely delicious. You can see that I had to taste test one. I just couldn't resist. They are such a delicious, moist cookie. You can see that they're very light in color. The edges are just very light golden brown, but they are absolutely yummy. Very moist, very good. I'm gonna go ahead now and demonstrate the preparation of the glaze that goes on top of these. So, okay, here we go. Let's go ahead and make the glaze. Only 3 ingredients in the glaze that goes on our ricotta cookies. So we're gonna use 1.5 cups of powdered sugar. And as always, I use a dry measuring cup, and then I'm gonna use a flat edge to level that off. So I have 1 cup of powdered sugar, and I'm just doing this in my little small bowl here. Okay, so 1.5 cups of powdered sugar, 3 tablespoons of lemon juice, and the zest of 1 lemon. So I'd already zested that lemon, and I've got that ready to drop in. And then I squeezed out the lemon juice ahead of time, and it's just all in there. I think it calls for 3 tablespoons. I'm gonna go ahead and pull out any little pulp or seed that I see. And so I think it called for 3 tablespoons, but I'm just calling that good with the zest of 1 lemon. I'm gonna go ahead and mix that up thoroughly and get that all together. Here we go. And it makes a nice little glaze that's just going to make these cookies really pop. It's gonna make them look prettier and also taste delicious. They need to be cooled for 15 minutes at least before you add the glaze, because otherwise that glaze will just roll right off and melt right off. Also advise going ahead and leaving the cookies on the parchment paper until you glaze them, because that way if any falls off, it's not gonna get on your container or on your dish. It's just gonna be there on the parchment paper that you'll toss later anyway. So you're gonna get all this mixed together, and gonna get ready to just use the spoon to sort of spoon them onto each one. It's a little bit thick, but not too thick. And so I just use the back of the spoon to kind of mix that around, kind of make a little circle on top of each one. I don't necessarily cover completely, but just almost to the edges of the cookie. And this glaze just absolutely made the cookies pop. Just when you look at a cookie that's glazed or iced, it just sort of seems like it's a cookie that's a cut above, if you will. It just makes them look so pretty when they're plated and displayed and served. But the glaze just adds that double taste of lemon. We've got the lemon in the cookie batter, and now we've got the lemon in the glaze as well. So we've got that glaze all prepared, spooning that glaze onto each cookie. I'm gonna just keep getting all these added, and I'm hoping you'll give this a try at your house and find out how delicious they really are. They were a huge hit with my guests and with my family, and I think this is one that's going to be put into the rotation in the McFarland family for years to come, especially for those times that I'm hosting an event, having women into my home, wanting to just serve something up for the ladies that's just a little bit more special. Is a little bit more time consuming to do all the glazing, but the finished product makes it absolutely worth it. So thanks for spending this time with me. Thanks for your patience with my little bit of mess ups here. You can find the recipe, download the PDF below. Here's what they look like. Absolutely delicious. My lemon glazed ricotta cookies. They are fabulous, and I hope you'll give them a try at your house. Have a great week. For Cross My Heart Ministry, I'm Laura McFarland.